Ladies and gentlemen, with a break in tradition of me usually getting screwed over by Gaijin and yelling at them, we're going to be talking about what they're doing. Today I am joined by my good friend Hack Wild and
Hello.
Justice Invictus.
Howdy.
So today the Disclosures No.4 came out with the information and the Q&A that the game director of War Thunder did, and we just want to go over that with you guys and give our personal thoughts on what we think about that. So we're going to be reading that with you guys. I skimmed over this. I didn't look too deep into this, so I could just get some raw feedback to you guys. This is basically
Okay.
the first time that I'm actually reading it.
I haven't read this at all. This is going to be my 100% raw opinion that you're going to be getting, so I haven't peeked at this at all. So whatever we see, I'm seeing it for the first time.
I've briefly skimmed through it, but not enough to form any opinions, except for one thing which I read elsewhere.
All right, well let's get started. I will read a couple sections and then we'll expound upon what we think about it. We can discuss it and blah blah blah, and then we'll move on. So anyway, we've got an introduction here from one of the development team here. So hi there everyone, it's Magazine 2 reporting in. Today I'd like to go through some information to keep you in the loop. We're in the last stages of 2024 and this has been a busy time for the dev team. This will also be the last update from the CM team in 2024. Also, public service announcement. Go get your decal. I will post the link to this post and you can get it right here. I will be sure to post that in the YouTube comment section. Make sure you get that before December 26th or it is no longer valid. Anyway, so we're going to be reflecting on the Firebird's major update. Perfect. The major update was large in terms of graphical changes and the introduction of ray tracing. These types of additions take a lot of development time and did bring up issues at first for some players which were unintentional. The dev and Q&A team worked hard on rectifying these issues as soon as they could. Excuse me. As soon as they could. We appreciate your patience with this and the reports on these issues. The entire team is grateful for your help and sorry for any disruption to your game time. Coming on to major feedback that was collected by the team, many thanks to everyone who left feedback, especially constructive criticism. There's some replies from the devs that I've picked out from our doc. Other technical information on vehicles or their ordnance will be spread around by other CMs on the forums. If you'd like to see if we have some responses to particular feedback, then feel free to ask, and then we will provide you with answers if we have some. So, in response to the missile evaded messages, we have analyzed player feedback and decided to improve this feature. In some modes, it will be completely hidden in simulator battles, and in the rest, arcade and realistic battles, it will be possible to hide it or leave it at the player's discretion. Missile evasion statistics in the debriefing menu will remain for all modes. We're working on the ability to hide or enable the message at the moment. If everything goes fine, this option will be available soon. I personally like the message. I leave it on. It lets me know, especially with the recent introduction of BVR combat. It lets me know when I have defeated a missile, and it's been a great help with that. I mean, not so much close range because you're still going to need to rely on your eyes. That's not something that you need to rely on 100%. Kind of like the MAW system on the F-111, for example, and the Su-24. They're not going to tell you what direction or how close the missile is. They're just going to tell you that, hey, there's a missile that's been shot at you. You should probably be looking around. So it's not something that you should rely on, but I personally enjoy the addition to the game.
Me personally, it's kind of a toss-up. I like knowing, like, if a missile shot at me, I know that, hey, I evaded it. That's cool. But sometimes I'll get a message, missile evaded, for a missile that is 3 zip codes away from me that I didn't even know was there. So I think the system's kind of inconsistent, and that's a. I know they just implemented this, so it's very new, but it's kind of. I'm kind of indifferent on the matter. The only thing I don't like is that it takes up a lot of the. I know you might be able to change this in the game files, but it's like where the text is placed when you get the notification. I think it already takes up limited screen that you already have because you already have your HUD and your gauges and your other stuff that you're looking like you got your compass across the top of the map. You got your radar on the top right. You got your plane skeleton and your modules to look at. I just think it takes up a little bit of too much um, valuable screen space, because if that message triggers, if you're in the middle of a dogfight or if you're trying to notch an incoming Fox 3, you kind of lose a lot of. I mean, if you do evade it, it's nice to know, like, hey, I evaded it. Good job. That's
It
the
can be a
threat.
bit distracting.
Yeah, it can be distracting. That's what I've noticed. And I've played this game for 10 plus years, and I don't know how long top tier has been around since then. But I've kind of just grown accustomed to, visual visually looking at an opponent and seeing what their missile's doing, what I need to do. And I think this is more geared towards new players, because they don't know if a missile is coming to them, and if they did defeat it, it is in fact defeated. So, I mean, in all honesty, I'm kind of indifferent on it, but me as a veteran player, I think it's a little annoying and niche. I mean, y'all might have a different opinion about it, but it's kind of like, I could do without it. But I understand Gaijin wanting to make it a little easier on new players coming to the game.
Something that comes to mind, I think it's personally it's a return of back when the Supersonics first came to the game, the F-100, the MiG-19, and that crew. It's a return of the missile incoming message that used to be a pop-up message that used to come up on the screen when you would get shot at by a missile, and I think with them taking it away, it added realism and what have you. But I think it's a return of that. I think it's nice to have the additional information of knowing that, hey, you evaded a missile, but I also think that you're right. I think that it can be a bit misleading if a missile is really far away and it wasn't even meant for you. I think that can be a little bit
Yeah, I
misleading.
agree. And it's almost and if you get in a really bad situation, if you have multiple people on you at the same time and you have multiple missiles fired at you from varying angles, and then you get the missile evasion, like, okay, did I evade one missile? Did I evade two, three, four? Because it only says missile evaded, or and that's it. Like, there's no missile evaded times whatever. Like, how many missiles did I defeat in that one instance? Like, I would appreciate like a counter to say, oh, kind of like how ground targets are and air targets are in sea targets are counted, where you get multi-strike depending on how much of a streak you go on. I think they should make the message um go where that text goes. Keep it low, out of the way, not in your visual what's it
Your
called?
field of view.
Your field of view, yeah. Not where it's obscuring you when you're trying to fly and when you're focusing on an objective. But I think you should be rewarded for evading a missile. Honestly. Now, not too much, because you can abuse it, but like a little trickle, just a tiny little bit, just to say, hey, you dodged the missile. A potential death was averted from an enemy player.
I think 100 SL just because of how often it's
Like,
going to happen.
it's not nothing
I think
crazy,
that's fine.
nothing to where you can abuse it and, like, all right, I'm gonna launch 10 missiles at one guy and he's gonna pop chaffing flares and he's gonna dodge all of them and I'm gonna farm RP or whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. I think you should be rewarded a tiny bit for saying I avoided a potential death by a player and you got away.
I think it's just another. I kind of agree with that. I think it's another avenue to reward skill. I think that's a good
Yeah, I
thing.
agree. 100%.
I think that has some skill is something I think in air battles that has definitely deteriorated, especially with the addition of the top tier premiums from several years ago, back when the F4S came out, and up to this point now. I mean, F4S players being teen levels, not maybe even single digit levels, and not knowing what to do,
And that's just
and
and that's
just
just for
buying the way to
American
top tier.
mains. I mean, and that's you're right. You're 100% right. And that's just for America, because the reputation for America, I mean, obviously geopolitically, is like America is the best nation on the planet.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. They have the best everything. And then new players see a 60, 70. I can't believe I'm saying this, an $80 premium in the the store and you're like, ooh, you know,
If we buy
it's a
this, I'm gonna instantly be good at the game.
exactly, it's a premium in my favorite nation. It's like they have their eyes set on it. It's like, all right, I'm gonna grind this nation. And then they get a premium vehicle. They have no idea how to play it, no idea what it does. They just know, okay, I'm going to top tier Era B or Grounder B. Bam.
And then I've had this happen. I've had people on my team ask, "How does radar work?" Or how do you shoot sparrows? Or I just it's disheartening to see what used to be a place of, man, you earned your way to top tier. Like back when the Saber and the MiG 15/17, the CL13, all that stuff. Back when that was the top tier of the game, there was no easy way to get that other than just playing the game and grinding it and being good at the
Yep.
game.
Yep. I remember when the top tier, the meta was literally, it was literally the MiG 15s. It was either the MiG 15s, the BIS in Germany or Russia, or it was the CL13 in Germany. That was like, and that was obviously when the nations were far and few between. I mean, you had America, Germany, and Russia, and they were slowly trickling into their nations, but like it was the big three, and it was just a bunch of transonic jets with guns only. Best of the best. Here you go. And
I
skill has basically gone out the window at this point.
I I like to think of that as the Top Gun era because it's only the best of the best, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
But that I look upon it with nostalgia, basically.
That's neither here nor there, but yeah.
I got you. Hack, do you have anything to add to that, or what do you think?
Not really. My opinions are based, at least on that subject, are basically the same as your guys's. I don't really have anything to add apart from yeah, not really anything to add. But I think it's a good feature. I think it needs fine tuning because, as Justin was saying, it's intrusive and you don't necessarily know if it was a missile fired at you or one of your teammates in a different postcode.
Yep,
But other than that, this seems to work just fine. And I think it's a good feature that it just needs more polishing.
I got you. One of the few things that Gaijin has actually done semi-correctly. All right.
They don't instantly hate.
All right. Next topic. So, newly added helicopters, lacking some damage model changes. The devs working on this updated heli damage model will be coming to the future for the helicopters released in the next, released in the Firebirds major update. Oh, no, my mistake. I skipped over the next one. Um, I do apologize for that. So, where I was supposed to be asking for Soviet top tier jet improvements. So, currently regarding statistics, U.S. aircraft are in the lead. Yeah, I can wholeheartedly agree. Strike Eagles have been
Mm-hmm.
running rampant in top tier. Goodness gracious.
It's either Strike Eagles or F-16s. It's one or the other.
U.S. aircraft are in the lead with Soviet aircraft being slightly behind. Slightly behind. That's bold language. More like severely. Though not significantly enough to where they require better weaponry.
I don't know about that, Chief.
I don't know about that, Chief. From looking at the preliminary data, the addition of advanced weaponry, as suggested by players, would tip the scales drastically in the other direction. Here we're talking about the RVVMD close-range missile. I'm not too well versed in more recent Russian weaponry, so if somebody in the comments would fill me in on that, I would appreciate it. Also brought up were the R77-1 medium-range missiles. I do know what that is. Though regarding energy, these don't differ much from the R77 in game. See, the problem with Russia is once you got to the first flanker, basically it's the same thing over and over again in terms of performance. You'll get slight variations here or there. You might get slightly different engines, and the airframe might be lighter or heavier, etc., etc. But for the most part, the weapons and their employment regime is going to be the same. Right now, America is top dog in terms of BVR combat with the M120, and if you want to go a little bit lower, the Phoenixes and Falkor 90s. They're absolutely dominating the BVR regime. Everybody else, even France with the Mika, it doesn't have the range that the M120 has, but it has better close range than the R77. It is thrust vectored, and the R77s only have the fins on the back. So Russia is, in terms of the BVR regime of their aircraft, I think they're significantly behind, and I don't think
agree.
I don't think that's something that it needs to be glossed over by guys, and I think they need to take a better look at it.
I agree. The R77 is a medium to close range Fox 3. Like the stat card on it, it says it has 50 G's of pull because of the drag fins on it. Like I was about 300 meters from a plane in a one circle fight in my MiG 29 SMT, and I launched a Fox 3 R77 at them, and it just hit them point blank. Like it was just a 1 in a million shot that the drag from that missile was just so high that it actually tracked and killed them. But the AMRAM, even though it doesn't have that, I wouldn't say it lacks the flexibility. It's just that R77, you can use it like an R73, where for America you have the A9M and the AMRAM, which is your two primary weapons. The AMRAM you can just snipe people across the map with it. And granted, Russia has a somewhat similar weapon in the R27ER, which goes hypersonic at high altitudes. But that's a Fox 1. Like you have to keep an active lock. And with the AMRAM, you can just spam fire those things across the map, and like the F-15E can carry 8 of those things, which is just outlandish. That's not and you can also carry a payload if you wanted to. And the French Mirages with their Micas, like I mean, they're arguably better. If not, they are better. Medium to close range Fox 3s because they do the same thing but better.
I also think it's a problem with the fire control systems of the Soviet jets because, if I recall, some of them can only guide through data link either 2 or 4 weapons at the same time, and I don't think anything else goes past 4. But
I'm not sure.
the American jets and by extension the French and any other aircraft, they can guide as many as they can carry basically. So I think that's a significant problem for them. I think they need to revisit that problem before they close the book on that and don't revisit it
I don't
again.
know if that's a game issue or if that's like a historical accuracy issue. I'm not sure. I'm not too well versed in between. I mean, to some extent, but not super deep. And when we're talking about, I don't know, looking for flight manuals on like, okay, what's the targeting system of this missile besides Wikipedia can tell me on the internet? Like,
I'd
besides, hearsay, without getting banned on the War Thunder forums for posting secret documents for the 13th time.
It's been a lot more than 13.
telling me. Go ahead.
I don't have any experience using the R77s. The only missiles or BVR missiles that I have used are the PL-12s, actually. So I really don't have much to say on the matter. I do notice I do play China for top tier air in Japan, but I don't get hit by R77s very often. I don't know necessarily if that's because they're just never fired at me, or if I can just dodge them at long range. I'm not sure.
I'd never see them get employed in a BVR scenario, and I think that speaks volumes for the problems that the Soviet air tree is having. So again, like I said, I think they need to go back and look at this and really look and see what the reality is of the gaming environment that the Soviet air tree is in right now.
Yeah, it's just the meta is obviously it's like NATO is just winning out against Russia. I mean, it's funny. It's very oxymoronic to think about. It's like usually you're thinking of like, oh, it's Russia, they're winning because Russia has the best everything, but it's actually not because mainly America is leading the charge with their AMRAMs and AIM-9M loadouts that they can carry, with followed by the probably the French if I had to say something in terms of a second place. I'd say the French Mirage And the one in the Chinese tech tree, the one that just got added for Taiwan. I think the
It's the EI, I believe.
the EI, yeah. I would say America, France, and then China, only because they have the Mirage for Taiwan. That's
Yep.
about it. I think those three nations are kind of leading the charge in ARB. So, but the R77, it's almost pointless to bring. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad missile, but the R73 can kind of do the same job that it does because you can pretty easily notch
The only
an
way that
R77.
I find an R77 useful because of the lack of range is maybe you can have a better chance of surviving missile jousts with other aircraft. Back in the day when the ER was the big missile, the big scary missile that everybody was afraid of, you would never want to trade with an ER outside of 5 kilometers because that missile was going to pick up so much speed at that time that your Sparrow wasn't going to get there, and there was a decent probability that the launch aircraft was going to get out of the way of your Sparrow before it got to him, and you were going to die to his missile. But now with the R77s, they're nowhere near as fast, and they have nowhere near the range of the ER. So that's really the only way that I think that they can be viable is you can get out of missile joust a little bit sooner just because you don't have to guide the weapon because you're in the range at which the missile pitbulls onto a target. So again, I think they need to go back and
I
look at
agree.
this and just revisit this issue in the future.
Yeah, I think they should add the 77-1 as a replacement for the 77. Like I mean, the 77, it's a decent missile, but it's just very situational in terms of when and where you can use it.
I got you. All right, moving on. All right. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. So reflecting on the new player card. So the goal of the devs, when they first started working on the new player card profile, the goal in mind was to make it more simplistic without information overload, which is why the player card only has one showcase and information is spread out rather than it being all in one place. The devs also wanted player cards to be unique and special to each player, with the ability to showcase cool achievements that they've earned or show off a rare vehicle that they are proud of. I have to say, I'm going to go ahead and say it, I am not happy with the way that they implemented this. I much preferred the old style because it wasn't just a show of achievement, it was also informational to know who you're fighting.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm not happy with what they did to the player cards. Not having that information of being able to tell who I'm fighting and hiding it under a new layer of UI, I think that's a big disadvantage for veteran War Thunder players like myself because now I'm having to learn a new UI, and instead of it being readily available with just 2 clicks, right click player card, and then everything would show up. Now
I
you
gotta
gotta
I
dig
have
through
to
everywhere.
I gotta dig through a dictionary to find the information I want. That is ridiculous. I think this is a terrible change, and they should revert it immediately or as soon as possible. Like this is
Bare
no.
minimum, offer an option to use either the new one or the
At the
legacy one.
yeah, if they're not gonna revert it, at least give us an option to go to legacy. Kind of like what they did for the Gaijin market. They offer a legacy version. Like do that. But like this new system, like I think they're just trying to follow the trope that all these other like AAA games are doing. They're trying to make it super simple for their player base to follow. But like no, you have like you have a very, I wouldn't say healthy, but you have a considerable amount of veteran players still around who are used to a UI that shows everything you've done, shows all your nations, all your vehicles, your achievements, your profile picture, your squadron, your name, your titles, everything. And then you're just going to go ahead and change it all around, and it's only going to show. Here, I got mine pulled up. It shows it shows 6 stats, and then it shows, oh, my favorite game mode is blank, and
Who
then it shows
cares?
who cares, who cares, and my profile picture and my name and my level, and that's a like we can talk about player levels another time. Like that's we can discuss that later. But like there's nothing here. This is literally a useless screen. This is just an extra layer of trying to make something prettier and you're taking the player card, the original one had a function, but not form, I guess. But that was fine. You had the function; it did everything you wanted it to do.
I
This is
think it
just
was a
this is
case of
just form.
60-40 of form over function. I much preferred the old one just
Like
because
I know
it did
one.
it looked okay, but it was usable and it provided useful information.
Yeah, it was very cut and dry, very simple. It did everything you needed it to do. This is too simple.
Yeah, I agree.
This is way too simple. Like no.
Hack, your thoughts on that? Hack's dead. Oh no.
Oh, I muted my
Bro.
microphone. Whoops.
I was about to say,
I'm
if you're
professional at
talking and
this.
you're muted.
I'm professional. Believe me. My opinions on that is I think the presentation is nice. The presentation is nice, but I feel as though the ability to look at, and I'll go into this for the people who may not know, um, is not having the win rate specifically is what is nice to have, and the number of battles is that can tell you how good a player is and what you can expect from them. That's the big thing, is what you can expect a good player to do, because here's the thing. People who are good at the game are predictable. And if you don't know what they're like, if you see somebody with a 70% win rate, that means they win 70% of the games that they play. That's information that I would like to know.
That's
Because
somebody
then
you
I
need to
can
look out for.
exactly. You may not know what tank, because if you're looking at RB, for example, and tank RB, you may not know what tank they're specifically in, because there can be multiple versions of one tank in a game. But that means that I can be wary of, if I see him get a kill and I know what tank he's in, I'm wary. And if he's doing really well and I see that tank, I know to target him because he's killing the team.
Yep.
And I suppose you can say that like you can see that just on how many kills the player has in that current game, which is fair, I guess. But I would still much rather be able to check somebody's stats if somebody is starting to do really well at the team or at the beginning of the game. I want to know what I can expect from them so I can formulate a plan to not fall into a trap.
Yeah, I mean,
That's basically my opinion.
I mean, I mean, our stats, despite you having a bajillion more games than I do, our stats are very similar. So, and we play very similarly. We've watched each other play. But oh, I hear you shooting back there. But me and you, we play very similarly. I mean, I squad with you all the time in RB.
You're like the only person that
And
I play with, so
exactly.
because I have no friends.
Besides me, myself, and I.
Yes.
But me and you do the same thing. I mean, we communicate that information of, hey, watch out for this guy. He's actually stacking some kills. We need to focus him so he doesn't get a nuke and end the game. Or, be careful. Watch out for this specific tank. He knows what he's doing. I think them redoing the system, I disagree with it because one, I don't like change. I'm a boomer when it comes to that. But two, it's a lack of information. I don't like not having information. Even if it's useless information, if it's something that I can use on occasion, then it is somewhat useful. I'll take it. They should have just left it alone. That's my
And just to
opinion
add
on that.
something, I not on that point, but just kind of going back to the player card itself. I just think it's just lazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Like they didn't put a lot of effort into this at all. Like that is just straight
Like you
lazy.
said, throwing 6 stats on a screen and calling it a player card, I think that's very lazy.
Like, no, that is not a player card. That's like a player rectangle. Or
That's like a note card. It's a sticky
that's
note.
like, yeah, it's a player sticky note. This isn't a player card. Like, if I wanted to go, like, I could get better cards at a blackjack table than this.
That's sad, honestly. That's my personal opinion on that. Again, like you said, lack of effort. Anyway, let's see what Gaijin has to say about that. When the major update released, one of the main talking points was the new player card, and we relayed this information to the dev team. In hindsight, the team realizes that the player card with missing information beforehand was not very effective. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, as I have just described. Our aim was to release new player card showcases gradually rather than all at once, as many of them take a while to program and implement into the game, as there are a lot of old and intricate data to handle. If you would stop adding Russian premium tanks, you could do it faster. Anyway, after design, implementing such a card takes a considerable amount of time with the GUI designers and handling a huge amount of historic data as a careful process. Excuse me. We are going to learn from this. We had a lengthy discussion with the devs about its design. Based on feedback, we considered that it would be rolled back into the old one in the meantime while more features were added. However, this was not plausible due to technical reasons and the fact that we would have to maintain both the new and the old version, causing further delays. We understand the feedback about its design and display of information, but as of now the devs will be keeping it in terms of layout. Having said this, we'll be adding the missing information gradually. More on that below. But the current layout and display of information on the player card will remain how it is.
That is absolutely ridiculous. If you didn't change the player card in the first place, we wouldn't have this issue at all.
We wouldn't be having this discussion.
We literally would not be having this discussion right now.
In total, the devs have more than a dozen different showcases planned on which will be added over time. If developed in time for the December major update, the following 5 showcases are planned to be added. However, just a warning that there is a slight chance they might not make it to December, which means they'll be coming sometime early 2025 instead. So, you got your vehicle collector. That was already on the old stat card anyway.
Yeah, that was already there, and it shows you how many vehicles you had, and it shows you how many spaded vehicles you had, which I liked, because you could have all the vehicles on the planet, but it actually shows you.
Again, useful information. Rarely useful information, but useful information nonetheless. Atomic Ace, who gives a crap? You whoop-de-doo, you shot down a nuke. Anyway, move on to the next match.
No, it's when you drop. That's when you
drop one. Excuse me. I mean, yeehaw. Peacemaker, who cares? Like, this is less than useful, but it's not useful information that's not occasionally useful. Like, this is just flat out just who cares? It's just information. It's just information.
Well,
it's useful
hang on.
information.
Go up. Scroll up a little bit. Scroll up a little bit. I think these two are titles. Scroll up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, these are titles, and they have numbers tagged to them. That's
okay.
Those are.
Let me pull back from that. If you get something, then okay. At least you get something for your troubles.
I can get behind. I can get behind this. If you have a title and it shows you like, hey, I did this, which I think is pretty cool. I think title should have a little more meaning than just, oh, I bought this pack on this specific day at this specific time, and I got some dialogue.
Look at me. I bought this for money.
I mean, I have a lot of titles like that, but that's neither here nor there. So.
Alright, Battle Hardened, you can choose one of the game modes for this mode. The player's skill-dependent statistics for the last month and place in the leaderboard by PvP rating will be shown. Number of battles, percentage of victories, average relative position, player KD, AI KD, average score, place in the leaderboard, and PvP rating. Let me make sure that I'm... Literally, I think everything here could be seen on the old card except maybe AI kills. Who cares about AI kills? That's useless.
Honestly. Well, I mean, to be fair, AI kills they inflate your numbers. They can. That's kind of something I did have a gripe with, is that, like, if I killed If I killed
Well, I don't think they do that
a
anymore.
plane,
Used to, I remember back when they added AI planes to maps, they would inflate your KD on your skill
they
card.
still do. They still
That's
do.
not that I've seen.
You
I'll
sure?
have to look into that. I don't think they do that anymore.
I'm pretty sure they do. Let me go check.
I don't think they do. I haven't run into that issue. Favorite vehicle? Again, who cares? You can literally go to somebody's card and see, man, what do they have the highest win rate in, the most kills, the most time playing in like a fighter, a bomber, ground attack, or whatever. You can literally see the amount of time they play in a specific type of vehicle, and then you can assume based on that, looking at their player card, the old school player card, man, this thing's at the top of the the player card for a reason. I wonder why they like playing it so much. You know, I mean, God, Gaijin, what are you doing,
Hang on.
guys?
Scroll up a little bit. Scroll up. Let me read it. Cool. I think this is just another layer to the player card. It's just like, oh, I like this vehicle. Here's the stats on it. Like when you first open your player card right now, there's nothing there. But I think this is just another section they're going to add. So if you wanted to showcase, I don't know,
My
your T9
2,000 kills on my starship.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you wanted to show your starship off, that would just say, hey, I favorite this vehicle. Show it on my player card when players open up my stat card.
My 1,500 kills in the T95 because I'm a masochist.
Yeah, exactly. Or how I have, 5 above 80% win rates in the IS2s. All of them.
Exactly.
Exactly.
If they actually manage to add all of that stuff that they just said to the player card, I won't have an issue with it, even slightly.
Yeah.
Because
But
I like the way that it looks,
it,
personally.
I don't. I'm not a fan of it personally. Again, like I said, I'm a boomer to change. I don't like change.
nah.
So.
That's my opinion, and you can have your whatever you want, but still.
All right. So moving on, we also have some more showcases planned. They will likely be added in the spring. So, Achievement Hunter, Squadron Warrior, Medalist, Title Collector, Decal Collector, Decorator Collector, and then Ace of Spades. Actually, that's kind of cool. That's a cool one. I like that one. Profile and profile background and avatar frames customization. Again, more like AAA stuff. This is almost like a COD calling card, basically. Additionally, if it goes to plan in the December major update, the devs plan to add background customization. There will be 7 free profile backgrounds that the player can choose from, and ways to get other ones through events and for Golden Eagles. As mentioned above, no promises if this will come in the December update. They may be pushed back to early 2025, but they're in the works. The avatar frames will also be added as well, perhaps in the December major as well. When they're first added, they'll be free, with some paid ones ranging from 500 to 1000 GE. Prices might change, much like how profile icons work. And as already mentioned, we can't say for sure whether they'll be ready for the December update or not, and may be pushed back as well, but they're getting worked on. KV event, it was like slapping tungsten with wooden cricket bats. Like, that was pain and suffering. I played one game and I did just like never again. I'm not doing that. It was terrible. I did not enjoy it. And the percentage chances of getting an IS7, 12 IS7s were given away for the 12th year. It was like something like a 0.05% if you did all of the tickets. Like it was some ridiculous number. Like it was basically impossible. So, I did not enjoy how they went about that.
I did the first thing
there we go.
like for 5 entries, and that was it. Like that I did the one full challenge and I didn't do anything else.
I didn't play it.
I was about to say, I don't think you played it.
Nope, I didn't play it. I didn't touch it. Don't like the KV7. I got it because I was playing War Thunder when the event was happening.
Don't get me wrong, it's a funny looking tank, but other than that, it's just...
It's niche, and that's all it will be.
Exactly. Perfect explanation. The dev team and CM team collaborate on this event together to create it. We experimented with a new type of event where there was the same type of vehicle as itself. We wanted to do something fun and unique for the game's 12th anniversary here, which was the main reason there were only 12 IS-7s given away. We've collected feedback on this event and will look to improve similar ones in the future. We may or may not return in some aspect, perhaps as a fun little weekend edition, or even not at all. No promises from us on this. We're still analyzing and thinking of ways to improve them and make them as fun as possible without the feeling of a marathon. Thanks to everyone who participated in this event and left feedback on it, and congrats to the 12 IS-7 winners. Couldn't be me, couldn't be bothered. I have a job. No thank you. I value my sleep. Oh, and here's the code. Again, I'll put the forum link in the description, but there's the code for the snail decal that was showed off earlier. All right, the fun part. This is the meat and potatoes. This is why we're here. So we haven't done Q&A in a while, so I asked for Game Director for some questions. Here are 13 questions mainly focused on the game going forward into 2025. Hope you find the answers interesting and valuable. Special thanks to, I'm not going to pronounce that, for his time. If I say it, I'm gonna make my furniture start floating, and that's a whole nother issue. Anyway, so I'm assuming usually how they do this format is it's ground, air, naval, and then other. I don't know if they kept the same format. We'll see what happens. All right, first question. Abandoned Factory has recently received beautiful new visuals. I wholeheartedly agree. It looks a lot better. I like the map.
It does. Yes, it does.
Are there any plans to give older versions visual updates in the future? Yes, we're planning on updating other locations as well. Excellent. Poland needs an update. It looks very dated.
And Karelia.
And Karelia, it's okay. They did a pretty good job on that one.
It gets away with it because it has so much foliage and vegetation on it. It just kind of hides it. So
I'd say Karelia has held up fairly well.
It actually, I agree. I think it looks pretty decent after
Could
all these
it
years.
do with an update? Absolutely. There's many maps.
Does it need a facelift? Not really, but could it use it?
Does it
Yeah.
deserve one? Yes.
It deserves one, yeah. Like we deserve White Rock Fortress to get back in the game. Like that was the best map ever, and they took it away.
The way that map was laid out, I loved it. That was my #1 map besides Karelia. Easy. That's not even a hard decision to make on that. That place definitely needs a facelift. Over the years, that map got really dated. I could tell as the years went by. But that was such a fun map to play because it was very dynamic to play. It wasn't like
I had such a great time playing that game.
There wasn't direct lines to capture anything. There were multiple ways you could get to cap points, which made the game very fluid.
I liked you could actually ride the castle walls to get around places instead of like, oh, I gotta be inside the castle. Like, no, dude, I can get on the castle and just ride around the entire map on the border wall.
Yep.
Or if I wanted to, I could be an absolute maniac and flank down the river at the bottom of like a 200-foot drop, and then come up back around to, on the right flank if you're on coming up inland. Like I love that map so much, and I don't know why they took it out, honestly.
Yeah, I think that map among others like Karelia, I think there are definitely a lot of the older maps. First of all, they need a facelift first because they're definitely the older maps. I think they need it more than others. The more recent maps, they've gotten away with it pretty good just because the graphics hasn't updated too far from when they were made. But you can definitely tell those are early teen year War Thunder maps like Karelia, and Poland and Carpathians. I think they need to get updated. I think they deserve it though. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Hack, I mean, I know you play a lot more ground than I do. Those are crowd favorites, I'm sure.
Crowd favorites, Karelia, Carpathians, yeah. The biggest issue that I have with the updated maps, and I've pulled in European Province to the updated maps because they didn't completely redo the visuals, but they did change the flow of the map. The big version, I'm not a fan. The updated cat version with the 3 in the row, I am also not a fan at all. So they should update the maps, and I know why they update it. They try and make it similar to the actual real life map. It's the same thing they did with Fire Arc, but I think that they really should refrain from changing the layout of the map. The visuals of the map, I think they should update and leave the flow and the actual, I guess, placement, I guess, of the map the same.
Yeah, I agree. You can change the map without changing the map. And I think that's what they should do. But I don't want to sound too negative, but I mean it's just the reality. It's like Gaijin just can't keep their hands off of if they do something and it's done, hey, good job. They always go a little bit more than they should, and they color outside the lines, and then they mess it up. So that's been my personal experience, unfortunately. Again, well, is it Eastern Europe is the one that has the messed up triple caps? Because it used to be in a line.
European province.
European province. Okay, they both two E words back to back.
Those might actually be the same. Really showing my been playing for a long time and play a lot of ground knowledge, but those might be the.
I know the map. I can see it in my head. I can't remember the name.
What was I completely blanked on the first one that you said? What was it again? So the European province.
That might be wrong. I might be having a moment.
So Eastern Europe is the small version, and that's the one with the changed caps.
Oh, okay, I got it. Why is it two different names? What in the world? I feel like that's just a bad thing to do.
Actually, speaking of European province, this is going to go into sort of reskinned and updated maps. Is it Flanders? I think is the map.
The World War I map with the blimp.
No, Holland.
Holland, yeah, with the mall.
The mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That map, or North Holland, that map is just reskinned European province.
Yep. They turned it a different direction. There you go. European
province.
They
turned it. They turned it 90 degrees, and then it's like,
they didn't even.
Here's a new map.
They didn't even change it like that. It's still the same direction. Or no, I guess you are right. I'm looking at the flipped version on my thing here.
Well, Holland is north to south. European province is east to west, west to east, whatever, however you want to say it. Longitudinal. There you
go. From spawn to spawn, though, the way that the spawns are set up on the new version of European province, the updated version, it's the same. It's just the map itself is flipped a different direction.
I got you. The concept is the same.
Yes. Like the rivers, the rivers have been slightly updated and they've been turned into canals. It's the same map. They shouldn't do that. It's either create a new map or don't.
Uh-oh, Hack. No, let's not go. Stay away from the urban combat. We both, me and you, we both know we don't like that. Let's just stay away from that. That's an entirely different.
That's another rant that we're not going to get into.
That's another rant.
All night.
We're going to be here all night talking about the things that we do not like. Oh man. All right. Anyway, moving on to the next question. War Thunder is constantly expanding with new vehicles from other nations which are implemented into nations already in the game. But are there any plans to separate standalone nations in the future in addition to the 10 already present? Yes, we have plans for separate new nations, but next year we'll be focusing on filling the gaps in existing trees, including adding subtrees for other nations to them and adding new types of vehicles. So, I mean, typical answer, we're going to add more stuff. That's basically what that answer comes up to, is we're going to add more stuff. And go figure. I mean, with all the subtrees that they've been adding, it makes sense. And they haven't added a new nation in a while, so I figured it was about time anyway that they do that. So I'm really interested to see in what direction they go with that. But again, we'll mark that under who's to say. We'll see what happens. Any thoughts on that?
And this was about like adding niche vehicles, correct?
Well, it says that at the end, but I mean,
As long as they don't make it a habit, just keep it far. Like the F-117, like, hey, that was a really cool jet. It's a really cool jet. First stealth aircraft in War Thunder. It's cool. It's very, very niche, but don't make it a habit. Limit it. Don't add it too much because then you're taking away from potential like eye-catching stuff like the SU-34 fullback that was added or the F-15E. I
yep.
mean, that's the main prize, so to speak, of this update, Firebirds. But the F-117, I think it's a cool looking jet, great, but it only has 2 bombs and it has very limited types of bombs.
I think
But
they should save those
just
types of vehicles for lesser updates, so at least there is a
I agree.
light at the end of the tunnel, so that it might not be the greatest update, but they have one or two all-star picks that they're adding, and I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, like if there's a small update or something else, then keep it to a minimum, and we'll be okay.
Hack, you got any thoughts on that?
Um, I'm all for the niche vehicles. This is going to sound really weird considering they're considered niche vehicles, but basically, don't make the niche vehicles too niche because, like Justin was saying, there's a lot of niche vehicles in War Thunder. There just is. Some of them are tech tree, some of them aren't. And niche usually comes with the side effect of not being very good
Yep.
or having limited effectiveness. And I think they should try and avoid doing that. Niche vehicles, I think, as squadron vehicles is a good idea because I mean everybody can get them,
Yeah, for
but you're
free. You don't
not.
have to spend a penny.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Gaijin's not really a big fan of doing it exactly like that because Gaijin likes money. They're a company. That is literally their business practice. Um, but I think they should keep the super niche vehicles for events. Things like I know why so the F-117 Nighthawk is iconic, which is why they added it as a squadron vehicle.
Yep.
Um, but my personal opinion is that I think it should have been an event vehicle because 2 bombs is not a lot. Um,
I can't imagine stock grinding that thing. That'd be awful.
even at 9.0, because it 9.0, it's not faster than literally anything, and it's it's too niche, honestly.
There's a point where being niche becomes a problem.
It's detrimental.
Yep.
And in the F-117's Nighthawk's case, that is one of the things that it suffers from, in my opinion. Um, here's a good question that I was going to pose earlier. So we did skip a question. I'm not sure if everybody noticed. Constantly expanding with new vehicles from other nations, which are implemented into nations already in the game, but are there any plans for separate standalone nations in the future, in
Well,
addition to the 10 already in the game?
well,
I had a
that's what I was saying about a nation getting added. I said it's been a while since that's happened, and I figured it was about time it happened anyway.
I mean,
So
it kind of just happened with the Netherlands getting to
Well, that's
France
a
top
sub-tree. I
tier.
don't think that counts.
That's
It's
like
copy-paste.
that hardly counts. Like I know it's like, oh, but the Dutch and French. It's like, dude, like that is 3 tanks and some change. Like no.
it's a nice buff. It's 4 tanks technically, but yes. It's so copy paste, in fact, that the Dutch tanks that we were getting at that are or were getting added or that got added, excuse me, were under the command of the German army. As for that, what other nations would you like to see in the game? Was the question that I was going to pose.
I would
Poland.
love Poland. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
They have so much cool stuff. It's not even funny.
Again, I think that would be a good side grade for Germany. But as a standalone nation, I think you have to get to the point of making a conglomeration of nations as a tech tree rather than just a standalone.
There
Because
are
you
only
start
so many
there's
countries that use
yeah.
tanks.
Well, it not even that. There's only so many countries that have as much history as the ones that we have in the game already. You can only go so far back because some nations they didn't get tanks until recently, as in a couple decades ago. And then you would start out in the Cold War, which is why Israel started at what 6.0 is where the Super Shermans are. That's why they start where they
Uh,
are.
yeah.
I still
So you
think
run
that
into that issue.
the Super Sherman should be higher because having that ridiculous heat round at 6.0, just negating any armor advantage you have is just ridiculous. And for some reason, the Super Shermans are insanely hard to kill. I don't know if that's just me, but when I've had to shoot them, it's like they're the hardest thing to kill for no reason, even though they're just Shermans. Just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, continue.
That might be a certified skill issue.
This has been a certified shalom moment. Um, but I think, like I said, you're gonna have to start making a conglomeration of tech trees, like with Sweden and Finland. The way I saw this implemented in a good way in another game is Wargame Red Dragon. There is
I was thinking the same exact thing.
you have the Norwegian, uh, I can't think of the name, the word,
Scandinavia.
the Scandinavian deck.
Remember, Finland is on the Eastern Bloc.
I know, but I mean
So
Finland is still in the Swedish. I'm saying in War Thunder, but adding stuff that is unique to the Scandinavian countries, and making that a whole tech tree, keep Sweden the face of the tech tree, but add unique stuff from the Scandinavian countries. I think that's a good opportunity to start doing that because for the most part they use the same stuff or at least similar stuff, so you're not going to find something too wacky. But I think a good opportunity to test this out would be the Balkan nations. So like Bosnia, Serbia, Yugoslavia, all those fun people down there. They have so much wacky stuff. I think that's a great opportunity to have um, a mixed tech tree, and it's crazy stuff, but they also have very similar stuff. So T72 variants and out the wazoo, and like the event going on right now, the J22, that you throw that in the tech tree. Like you already have one of the aircraft for the tech tree. They used World War II stuff, I'm sure of it. I wouldn't doubt it. Um, Again, going back to War Game, I'm sure there's German tanks in that deck. What is it, Stugs or Panzer IVs or something like that?
Did you mention Yugoslavia?
Yes.
Um,
Some
eh,
I can't remember
my
off the top of my head.
history might be failing me, or I'm thinking of the Czech Republic, but one of those countries did use 262s up until the 1950s.
I believe that was the Czechs. Again, throw the
Okay.
Czechs in there too. I don't know. I don't know who you would throw the Czechs into. I mean, that would probably be a safe bet to throw them in there too.
It's an
Slovakia.
we
Eastern
literally we gotta
European.
yeah
Exactly.
yeah
Exactly.
like for Russia, like for example, we have the T-72 Moderna from Slovakia as an event vehicle for Russia. I mean, That's a really cool tank. Don't get me wrong, but
Russia doesn't need that.
they don't need that. I mean, granted, it came out like a year or two ago, but still, they don't need it. They got a really full tech tree already. But then again, this is Gaijin's cash cow, or one of them. They got to find a way to get
Make that
players.
money.
They got to make that exactly. They got to make that money. But still,
I think it's fun to think about the possibility of getting group tech trees, like a Middle Eastern tech tree. That'd be very interesting. That'd be a fun tech tree to play. They have some funny stuff, like dump trucks with T-62 turrets on it. That'd be fun.
uh,
They have some really interesting upgrades, like for a Middle East country, tanks that you could have in that tech tree from a nation would be Iran. They have some really interesting tanks. It would be interesting to see how they would
I
be.
can't help but think about the T-55 Enigma when you said that.
Oh my goodness.
That weird, totally bonkers, off the wall upgrade for the 55 that the Iraqis made. Like, it looks cool. It looks like a super duper AM for Russia,
But it's just concrete.
but it's just concrete armor.
It's not. It's got composite-looking turret cheeks, but it's all concrete. It's not composite. So, but again, you have just another example of just some wacky stuff that I think that would be a good change of pace of a less serious tech tree. You know, just something fun, something off the wall. Whew. But anyway, moving on with that. So next question. It has been a while since there's been any information surrounding World War mode. It's been a couple years, honestly. What are some of the plans for this mode? Will it ever come back in some capacity? Answer: we're developing a new World War mode. I hope you can, excuse me. I hope we can tell you more about it in early 2025. So
We shall see.
we shall see. We'll leave that up to who's to say. I can neither confirm nor deny how accurate the sources that I've read. We may or may not be getting an Iran-Iraq war World War mode from the sources that I have read, but who's to say? I'm not. Don't take my word for.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. There you go. That's a good word. Allegedly. Perfect.
All right, campers. I've heard from an anonymous source.
Anyway,
I never played the World War mode. I don't really have any interest in the World War mode.
I
But
literally
I
played
know
2 World Wars and that's it. I only played the one for the AMBT and then I think the one after it, and that was it.
and that was the only one with a reward, I believe. That
That
was
was
worth it.
Yeah, that was it. Like, that was the only reason I played it in the first place. Other than that, I probably would have skipped. I would have skipped it.
I'm sure all 5 people who play it will be happy that they're going to do something with it.
Oh, I'm sure Gaijin will figure out how to make some money off of it. All right, next question. Well, with the addition of the F-117 being a very cool but novelty aircraft, will we see more additions like these, such as interesting vehicles that wouldn't fit too well in the metal? We just talked about this. Yes, it's okay. Do it sometimes, but don't dive off the deep end and do it too much where it becomes a problem of all they're adding is that. You also got to think of don't add stuff that it's going to be so unique and so niche that it's going to be a problem for how you play it. So, again, basically just kind of reiterating what we talked about earlier.
Actually, on that front, I do have something to add for that one.
Go ahead.
One of my friends was talking to me about that one. And he was mentioning the Foxbat, which in that circumstance, I think it's a niche enough vehicle. It's not very good. The only problem is I would say that it falls too far into that too niche to be good, because it'd essentially be a worse F-104 with better missiles, and that doesn't sound like much fun.
At least it would get countermeasures. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't mind it coming. It's a very iconic aircraft. I think they should keep to making those unique vehicles. squadron vehicles like you talked about, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's just a good place to put them instead of trying to find a way to either incorporate them into a tech tree or sell it. You know, oh, look at this new vehicle, we need to sell it, and then the uniqueness of the vehicle drives people away from it because it's not very good. So, what you said about how they should be added, I think that's wholeheartedly correct. I hope that they follow that in the future.
I'd love to play the Fox Bat in Sim.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Like that's like the perfect place for it.
All right. Next question. AI ticket bleed is detrimental to ARB? Sometimes. As a game can end without direct player input, and some AI aircraft are more effective than others, could the impact of AI aircraft be capped to a certain amount of tickets? That way, players would have to actively end the game themselves. I think it's fine the way it is. They get cleaned up so fast. More often than not, like it doesn't matter. I think this is just a waste of a question, honestly. I mean, AI aircraft are just free XP for everybody at top tier.
My opinion for this one falls under, if you're not killing them, you're not maximizing your points, therefore you are not playing correctly.
Yep. They're some of the most rewarding units on the battlefield. Like, if you're not blowing them up, then what are you doing?
It's either the AI aircraft or like the actually like
The correctly
3D,
modeled AA units.
yeah, like the 3D model like tanks, light tanks, trucks, SPAAs, like those are very rewarding to shoot at.
Yep. Yeah,
Granted, you have to know what you're
gotta know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know where to shoot to kill them, but they're very rewarding nonetheless.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Like, if you're not shooting them, then what are you doing? Are you even playing War Thunder at that point? All right,
Well,
moving on.
if
Go
you're
ahead. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
if you're complaining about the grind and then you're not maximizing how you grind, you're not doing it right.
Heck, you know what's that? You know what that is? It's a skill issue.
It is a skill issue.
It is 100% a skill issue. All right. Next question. The roadmap is an excellent way to see what is planned to come. Yeah, I agree. Are there any plans for a 2025 roadmap? We used to gather previous roadmaps when the general plan for changing the game dedicated to one goal was very long and consisted of many steps, and we wanted everyone to see the general goal and progress towards it. And now, there are many changes in the works aimed at improving the game and in different directions. On different fronts, both improving stability and, first of all, updating the game graphics. And of course, working on improving the game based on your reports and feedback. We plan to regularly cover the progress of development and report on our plans for implementing certain features and adding vehicles. And in the future, we may return to the previous roadmap format. I thought it was an excellent idea, and it was a good show of faith for Gaijin to do that, to at least show the people what they were doing. I'm really pleased that they did that, and I think it allowed for some nice transparency with the player base. So I hope they continue to do that in the future.
Yeah, that kind of came as a repercussion from the player backlash from was it earlier this year or last year?
I think it was last year.
But
I think.
yeah, there was like to the economy changes and everybody just got absolutely mad at Gaijin, which they should have.
Rightly
And
so.
they had to roll it back and they had to show good faith to the player base, which I'm glad they made a smart decision. And it's like, okay, we messed up. We heard you. Here's what we're gonna do about it. They didn't just sit on their hands like a 5-year-old and just like, oh, we didn't hear that. We're not gonna do anything. Like they actually listened, which is insane for Gaijin. But I got to give them credit where credit's due. Actually came through, and I got to say, most of the changes, most of the updates that have come out have actually been pretty positive. Overall, I got to give them a thumbs up. Overall, not saying everything's perfect, but grand scheme of things, good
Could have been a
job.
hell of a lot worse.
It could have been
Yes.
a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad that they decided to actually listen to us for once and be transparent with us. So I'm very happy that they did that. All right. Next question. In ground realistic battles, top attack aircraft are dominating ground vehicles for the most part. That's an understatement. They are. Are there any plans to do something about this in 2025? According to our data, the balance at the top ranks of ground battles is noticeably shifted towards aviation and helicopters, and this balance has become even worse with the introduction of top aircraft this year. A situation where aircraft can attack tanks from a safe distance with impunity makes gameplay more boring for aviation and less fair for ground vehicles. A similar situation is with helicopters equipped with long-range, fast ATGMs or fire and forget ATGMs. To counter these types of threats, more powerful systems are needed that have the ability to fire at several targets at once and a wide search sector, in both azimuth and elevation. The most advanced SAM system currently present in the game only partially meets these requirements, so we'll move forward towards heavier systems for all nations, including those components of which are located on several chassis. Of course, we'll have to solve the problem of controlling these types of SAM systems, but we're already having thoughts on the matter. In turn, there are plans to add new capabilities for aircraft, and while we do not consider anti-radiation missiles a priority and necessary, more advanced capabilities of ESM from onboard an aircraft, i.e. more accurate determination of active radar position, are in our fairly close plans. Well, that's interesting to hear. For a while they said that they wouldn't go into the heavier SAM systems, the heavier AA systems, because understandably so, they're located on multiple different vehicles, and that's kind of like a hard thing to
That was
do.
their whole thing, is they did not want to add multiple vehicles platforms, which I understood why they didn't. It makes complete sense because that's essentially modeling two vehicles in the same amount of time. That takes it takes a long time.
The logistics
For-
behind designing and figuring out an operating system for such a large conglomeration of vehicles is daunting for a design team, which I agree. But I think at this point with aircraft
I'll take what I
cast,
can get at this point.
I'll take what I can get. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, Gaijin, I'll be happy if they just add Patriot for all NATO nations, and then add like the S4 500 for like Russia, China, or something like that. Like it, like
We'll
at
think
least
about it like this.
I don't know. I
Uh,
don't know. This something.
that those systems are too big and scary to be so close to the battlefield that it wouldn't be functioning properly, I guess is the correct way.
minimum engagement
Minimum
distance would
engagement
be
distance, yeah,
I
I
that'd
don't.
be the
Well,
problem.
see, here's the funny thing. That's not my job to figure that out. That's Gaijin's.
Well, there you go. I can't blame you for that. But I am excited to see some of the more mobile SAM systems like the Book. I think that's a really unique SAM system. People have been whining and complaining about the Tor for so long. Oh, Russia needs the Tor. First of all, you have the Pantsir. Second of all, shut up. Like, calm down. You have the best SAM in the game. Relax.
That sounds like a skill issue.
That is 100% a skill issue. The Pantsir is
Would-
much better than the Tor.
would really be that would also give nations that don't have long range AA like Japan. Japan does not have a
Italy.
lot. Yeah, or Italy, Japan, Italy, they do not have modern. I say modern. They don't have self-propelled. It's vehicles with missiles with radar sights attached to them on another vehicle. That's the only thing they can add for Japan now.
Yep. I mean, once you get to the Type 81, that's it.
The Type 11 is the one that is the big one, which is basically a Type 81, just a newer missile. But it, unlike the TANSAM, which can be fired without a radar like it is now, the Type 11 cannot. It needs a radar. So,
Well, again, not my problem. Just piggybacking off of that, not my problem. But kind of let me pull back from that. I'm interested to see how they go about it. I want to know how they're gonna plan on adding those systems. If they rely on a network of vehicles, I don't know how they're gonna be able to do it, because ground battles are small. That's a small area to play in. This is not like a battle space of miles, several miles. This is like 2-3 miles, maybe. Not that far,
Maybe.
really.
even
I think one
even
grid
the
square in a ground RB game is like what 400 meters
it's
on
580,
580.
I
Okay,
believe.
I must be thinking about like the smaller versions. Then
Like
I don't know.
it's not big at all. So I'm a little bit
The
concerned, but also interested.
these short range missiles, or these vehicles that need radars, vehicles to fire their missiles, are designed to be used at long range. They're not short range. I'm not going to say capable, but they're not designed for short range. So
Yep.
it'll be very interesting to see how they do this.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna go about it, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
The one I just thought of this, like the only way I could see them adding heavy AAA to the game, uh have them as an AI controlled airfield asset, because I can't remember the scale of some of these ground RB maps, but at least keep these heavy AAA sets across the map, just because of how long their range is, and have them as the kind of gatekeepers to the air, because like the guy said, the guy asking the question, planes are just a nuisance and annoying to deal with at top tier,
Can't
and
deal with them.
you can't deal with them. You have a fullback that can launch a cruise missile that has a 93-kilometer range. Like, dude, the average round RB map is like not even a tenth of that range. That in width. Like it. Like no. Like there's
It's probably maybe 60 at the most.
like that's
That's
ridiculous.
stretching it too.
Like I don't know how Gaijin's going to do it, but just me personally, keep them. Have heavy AAA as an asset on the game, on these ground RB games at a certain BR range, only at top tier. Like I'm not saying have them everywhere, because that'd get ridiculous really fast. But at top tier, I would have these like heavy AAAs. Have a specified radar detection zone, and like if you stay in the circle for a certain amount of time, that SAM site's going to shoot at you. To almost
There's
treat it like super duper heavy long range airfield AA, basically. Same principle.
one thing I would like to add.
But that's just me saying something. That there could be 1,000 different ideas better than mine, but that's just something I just thought of in my head.
Another thing to mention with planes dominating is the A that we have in game. Some of them, not all of them, the Panzer specifically. It's the best A in War Thunder at top tier, hands down. End of statement. It
Oh yeah,
has
easy.
it has the long range capability. The problem with that is the planes, some planes, the fullback specifically, and the IR guided versions of the Maverick, because they're longer range than the TV Mavericks, is engagement time. Those missiles are fast, but they're not fast when the plane is turning around at the edge of your engagement distance. By the time your missile gets there, the plane's going to have gone out of missile distance.
Well, piggybacking off of that, a plane, if they're smart and know what they're doing, they're not just going to sit still, they're going to be moving around, which is going to cause that missile to burn its energy because the motors burn out by the time it's halfway to the target on the Pantsir. It's basically just riding off inertia at that point. The motor's gone. It's basically just the flare, so you can, not the flare, but like I don't know how that missile has like a tracer unit or whatever the heck it uses, but that's not even the motor. That's just the missile just traveling to the target by inertia alone, not the motor. So if the plane's moving around, it's burning off speed just getting to the target. It's not even engagement distance. It just turns into an energy fight basically of can I drain this missile of energy before it gets to me. And I've done it before. It's hard to do it just because it's the Pantsir, but it's very possible.
So those missiles can still turn even if they don't have a lot of energy, but it's not reliable.
And that's why I love the Tor so much, is because they burn all the way to the target. So, which is why it makes it so scary. But yeah.
Remarks complete, I guess.
I reckon so. I reckon. All right. Moving on. Are there any plans to implement naval for China, Sweden, and Israel? I would hope not, because there's not a whole lot there. China, maybe, but I mean, there's not
No,
a whole lot
not
to
really.
begin with in it. Nothing really happens until mid to late Cold War for them anyway, so I would hope not.
Up until the early 1960s, they were all using either, sorry, not the the very early 70s. They were using mostly ships based on Russian designs. The further back you go, the more true it is. They use a lot of Russian torpedo boats. Their destroyers and frigates were all either ex-Soviet or designed by the Soviets. So it'd just be a basic. It'd be Russia 2.0 until you get to the 1970s, basically.
Yep. And I just think it'd be a waste of resources. I mean, they don't have particularly like strong navies anyway in terms of what would be able to be researched and added to the game at this point in time. So, but that's just what I think. But let me see what this guy says. So no, in 2025 we plan to focus on the logical completion of Blue Water fleet trees by adding the most famous and powerful battleships. Finally, thank goodness that literally everybody's been waiting for this for 1,000 years. The entire reason everybody's been wanting to play naval, and then they have just been keeping it from everybody, and it has shown, not shown, it has shooed everybody away. Like, man, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So hopefully we get the big boys coming around next year.
I hope so, yeah.
In parallel, we'll be working on the implementation of other ships and weapons that are not yet represented in War Thunder. So, submarines might be on the table, boys. They might be on the table. I will say, I'll give praise to Gaijin on this. They did a good job with the U-boat event. I liked the way that the U-boats worked. I thought they did a good job with that.
It was much better than the other sub event that they had.
Yeah, much better. Was it Silent Thunder? Is that what it was?
I think it was Silent Thunder.
I
yeah,
think it was. I did not particularly enjoy the way that they made that one. Not a fan. But the Atlantic U-boat event, phenomenal. I had a great time doing that on both sides, playing destroyers or playing with the U-boats. And it was actually hard to play the submarines. People were thinking, "Oh man, the submarines are going to be overpowered." No, it's actually hard. It's very scary to be a submarine and you have an entire convoy escort coming to get you. So I really hope that that's where we go. There are some very exciting choices for submarines, particularly the Surcouf. favorite submarine. Cruiser submarine, yes sir. But hopefully that's where we're going. And that's what it's looking like just from reading that. But I mean,
So wait till you get to the next question.
oh boy. All right. Blue water fleet trees are mostly seeing the addition of pre-World War One, World War One, and World War Two ships. Will we eventually see Cold War or modern ships in 2025? The game already has ships from the Cold War era. Yeah, they're not much different from the World War II ships. But more modern weapons such as long-range anti-ship missiles and all their accompanying mechanics look like a rather difficult challenge to implement in a real-time online PvP game. So at the moment, we cannot yet give exact forecasts or even guarantees that something like this will appear in War Thunder. Sir, the Bravi would like to have a word with you. We have a guided Russian missile destroyer in the game with SA-3s.
It
You've
does
already opened the can of worms. It's open.
it does specifically say long range anti-ship missiles, which again I will mention are modeled in War Thunder.
Yes, they are in the
The
CDK, aren't they?
No, they're in the actual game. I
Well,
do not
besides
remember.
the Tornado has the Marine Fleeger has. What are they, Justin? AS-34s?
They're
The Cormoran.
AS-34 Comorons.
I mean, like, there is a ship in the game with anti-ship missiles. It's the French. I think it's called the Le Combat or the Combat.
The
Um,
Albatross has the pods modeled on it. The
yeah,
German patrol boat.
it has exoset pods modeled, but like the French top tier. You have War Thunder open, right, Justin?
Yes, I do.
Can you go to the French coastal tree and look at their bottom ship? It's in the left side, I think. It's called the Le Combat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's got
Um,
hang on. It's got a 40mm Bofors, 250 cals, and it has the SS-11 missile launcher on the back.
yes. So, those are anti-ship missiles. I mean, they're not fantastic, but that's what they were designed for.
Well, I mean,
Anti-ship missiles.
they put SS-11s on practically everything when they first came out. They thought this was the greatest thing ever.
To be fair, it was.
Oh man.
But as for anti-ship missiles in War Thunder, probably not a good idea, and I'm glad that they're postponing adding them because it will not be fun.
Yeah,
That
as
that
much as
is
I
my
want to disagree, I have to agree.
getting shot at from beyond the horizon and trying to shoot down these missiles, if you even have a ship capable of doing that, will not be fun. It will just lead to frustration.
I will give them credit for fixing how they work on the Tornado. They actually will go to different places on the ship at random rather than just hitting the middle. So that does show that the coding is there. So again, it's not a hard no, but this will probably be a couple years down the line at least. This is not something that we have on the books right now as being a top priority. So, but I think that's completely doable. Once you get people to the like the previously mentioned the big boys, the battleships, that'll hold people over for a while because that they'll have something to grind for, and then you can kind of ease off on the naval stuff again and focus on anything else that you need to do, and then you can kind of build back up to it. So, but at least it's not a hard no. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Cold War. You know that heck, that's pretty much all we play is Cold War tanks and beyond. So
Yeah. Cold War, best war.
That's right. All right, and going right back into naval. Submarines were tested some years ago. Are there any plans to add playable submarines to naval battles or in some form to the game? Yes, we have plans for playable subs, but no further details on this yet.
Can you guess what question I was talking about, Heat?
Gee, man, Hack, man, I don't know. Man, that's a real thinker, Hack. Let me think about it. All right. Well, I'm not gonna.
So,
Go ahead. You got it.
so War Thunder is about adding different vehicles and giving the players something to play that they might be interested in. I'm all for that. It's one of the reasons why I still play the game, even though I'm really not really enthused with how the game has turned out. But I wholeheartedly think that this is not a good idea. I like subs. I'm all for subs being added. Because it's another vehicle to play. But I have fears with how they're going to implement it, because if they implement it to be fun, we're gonna get world warship submarines with torpedoes going twice as fast as the submarine, or sorry, not twice as, but going faster than airplanes, which is not a thing. Torpedoes are the fastest torpedo in the world is about as fast as the fastest ship in the world, realistically. So it's going to be a balance, or it's going to be a fight over realism. And War Thunder always makes an attempt to sort of keep realism in the game, despite the arcadiness that we do get. War Thunder does try and keep it realistically fun, and it's going to be a battle between realism, without going into a whole big bag of details. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Without going into a big bag of details on the specifics of sub combat and maneuvering and et cetera, it's just going to be a giant battle between making them realistic and making them playable.
I wholeheartedly agree. There's definitely a fine line between being realistic on so many fronts that it becomes a problem and it's not fun to play. And then there's the problem of you go off the deep end of you want to be able to play it and have fun. Then it's not fun for anybody else to try and deal with you or just play the game normally. And I think because submarines offer a completely different realm of combat compared to the rest of the ocean-faring vessels ever made, I think that offers its own unique set of problems. So hopefully they take their time with it. Again, they've always been pretty slow on the naval stuff just because, one, not everybody plays it, which understandably so. They kind of dropped the ball on it early on. But two, as you kind of run out of interesting and unique surface vessels to add, and you start kind of dipping your toe in the water of uh, submarines, then you start running into more unique problems that you haven't had to deal with before. So you kind of have to think outside the box because the same solutions that you apply to surface vessels cannot be applied to submarines. So we'll have to see what they do with that. Again, like you said, I'm all for it. It's something else to play. I think it's a unique thing that might be worth giving a try just to see what happens. But I just hope that for the sake of naval that they do it right, because if they do it wrong, then it's literally just going to ruin the game mode, and it's gonna lead to an even worse exodus of players than before, because then everybody's just going to play submarines and that's it. Then nobody's going to want
Or
to play surface ships.
or they will be dead on arrival and nobody will play submarines.
Yep.
And then naval will be even more dead.
Yeah, it's basically a flip of the coin. if they open Pandora's box with this. So, again, like I said, it comes with its own unique set of problems. Justin, you got anything on that?
It's a dangerous game, but if they do it right, I think it's fun. I had going back to the U-boat event earlier this year. I had a great time playing it. I had a lot of moments in there that were like amazing. Something only a German sub captain could be proud of. But to say the least. But if they do it correctly, I think it could be a very fun and new line of vehicles to the game. But if they, like you said, World of Warships, if they go down that line and try to make it super arcadey and easy, like you're gonna really destroy the way ships are, because you're basically gonna make blue water ships unplayable if you do that. So you got to be careful. You have to respect the boats that are already in the game, but you also have to respect the vehicle you're trying to
Submarine
add.
combat
You have to,
being
yeah,
vastly different.
exactly. You got to respect both
Like I
avenues.
said, you can't apply the same rules and solutions to both sides. You just can't.
No, but that's a fine line. It's a tightrope you got to walk when you're doing this kind of thing. But I think if they do it correctly, I think it'll be great. But this is just a wait and see. So we'll have to wait and see. That's all I can say.
I got you. All right. All right. Well, moving on to the next question. Is frame generation planned to come to the game? For many, this would boost game performance, especially when using ray tracing. We are still at the prototyping stage, but this technology is in our plans. I don't really care. It's a graphic stuff. They change graphic stuff all the time. Um, I don't use ray tracing because it uses so much power that it can be a detriment to my frame rate of playing the game, and the game looks just fine without ray tracing. I think if you just want to go that extra step, then sure, go for it. If you have an absolute monster of a rig, have at it. But to the average War Thunder player, like myself, then who cares? I don't really. That doesn't really bother me in the slightest. Anybody else? I don't really think there's
Mm,
too much to be said there.
I don't know enough about frame generation or anything like the actual specifics of that to actually have an opinion on it. So
I got you.
I know nothing, so I shall say nothing.
All right. Well, that's one way to put it. All right, next question. To be specific about improvements coming, with more graphics and effects being updated in Firebirds, and more planned. Specifically, what will be updated in this regard? We have several areas in which we're working on the graphics. Firstly, these are improvements to ray tracing and the implementation of ray tracing on all platforms available for this technology next year. Secondly, everything that concerns the effects of interaction with water, such as explosions, movement in water, as well as the water itself. We also have plans for further visual improvements to the effect of a fatal explosion to a ground vehicle, to the effect of a fatal explosion of ground vehicle ammunition. Excuse me. But this is the only part of the planned improvements and refinements. Again, more graphic stuff, making the game look pretty. Um, I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, the game already looks fine to me anyway, so I'm not going to say anything or add anything to that. APCR is generally seen as a weak round. It absolutely is. It's terrible. Making it almost always redundant when another round is available. Do you have plans to make the shell more functional to give it a stronger place in the game, either with a more reliable damage or angled performance? The round often doesn't feel fun to use. We increased the damage of APCR cells several years ago, practically equalizing it with identical APDS shells in energy. The poor performance of APCR against sloped and spaced armor is their design flaw due to the lack of a jacket and armor-piercing dampener in the hard alloy core. APCR overall is more of a specialized shell for defeating heavily armored tanks without sloped armor in situations when it's more difficult to use a more versatile shell. That's more so just the reality of the shell more than a gameplay
There's
thing.
nothing
That's
like
there's
it
nothing you
is
can
what it
do.
is. Like there's nothing to change. Like APCR is just gonna be bad. I mean, it
It
sucks.
It's
I mean, it sucks. Like, hey, there's a whole shell type that it's in the game. No one's
but
using
nobody
it.
uses.
Exactly. It's like, why would you sacrifice a
this is
versatile shell that does? Go ahead.
this is the whole submarine thing. You either make it realistic and not fun,
Or fun but not
or
realistic.
yes. And War Thunder has always, for the most part, I don't. It sounds ridiculous saying it out loud, but they generally do try to go for a more realistic approach than an arcadey approach. Because War Thunder, no health bars, nothing like that, and that has always been the way that War Thunder has done this. So, would you rather have unrealistic APCR shells or realistic APCR shells playing the realistic, so quotation marks, because it's not entirely realistic? Which would you rather have? You can't have one or the other.
Yep. Yeah, it's just it's the case of reality. That's literally how it works IRL. Um, there's nothing really else to add there other than this is how it is represented in real life, so it should be represented in uh, in the game because it is a quote unquote realistic game in the most sense, like you just said. So there's really nothing really to change. I mean, it is what it is. Uh, to make a long story short, it is what it is. So, oh well. Alright, so we got some closing remarks here. So, next event vehicles, we're nearing the end of 2024 now, which means that there's one more vehicle event coming. This time for the winter event, we'll have 4 vehicles instead of the 3 mentioned at the beginning of the year. 1 tank, 2 aircraft, and 1 ship. Please keep an eye on the news for what's to come. 2025 plans. In the near future, we're going to be revealing some information about our plans for upcoming vehicles in 2025. This will primarily be about top-tier SAMs for all nations. We'll be working with the devs to produce an article with information on this, so keep an eye out for it in the future. The next update. As usual, we'll have a major update this month. The devs are working on some cool vehicles that we hope you'll enjoy. Keep an eye out for the start of the devlogs and watch out for the extreme weather. So, for the record, the devlog started what, today? Is that right, Hack? The VBC?
Yes.
Yes, it just dropped today.
So, the VBC devlog dropped today. And there's been a little bit of back and forth on that last line, watch out for the extreme weather, but for the most part it is generally agreed upon. That is in reference to the typhoon. Now, Hack, what did you say the Rafale translates to?
So, uh, gust of wind, or in a more military sense, gust of fire,
So,
which extreme weather, gust of wind, I wouldn't really consider extreme. Gust of fire, yeah, maybe a little bit.
rather extreme, you might say.
Yes.
If you have casual gusts of fire, I want to know where you live.
California.
That's every year for them. But yeah,
Sorry, not sorry.
maybe don't live in a tinderbox. I don't know what else to say.
Blame the Australians. Or actually the Germans, technically. But
You know what that is, Hack? It's not my problem.
yeah.
But yeah, basically it's all but confirmed the Typhoon and probably the Rafale are coming this update. Hopefully we get the 2-seat Rafale. It looks so much better than the single seat. Single seat aircraft, nah. Double 2-seaters, yes. That's where it's at. Anyway.
I might be adding the Hornet. We'll see. That is.
Oh yeah, that's been tossed around so much. We have not been able to get a solid answer on if the Hornet's coming or
That's been
not.
tossed around more than a football in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's no telling if that's going to get added to this update or not. I would sure hope it does.
Yeah, I love the Hornet. I think it's a fantastic jet. So I hope it does get added, since it is the son of my favorite aircraft ever, the F5.
Yeah, there's a couple nations that need it.
I'd like to see the Hornet added. I'm not holding my breath.
If it doesn't get added, I'm not gonna shed tears or anything, but it's whatever.
I'll be a little disappointed. That's as bad as much emotion as you're going to get out of me on that one.
Like if we don't, if America or anybody else doesn't get the Hornet because America got the Strike Eagle, that's like, yeah, it's fair, I guess so.
Well, they did say that America would get it before everybody else. Like, nope, nobody's going to get it without America getting it too. They did clarify that in the past. So, at the bottom line, America's going to get it. But if they get it, then Sweden's going to get it because Finland operates Hornets and Swiss Hornets for Germany. So we'll see
Yeah,
how that goes.
I'm kind of interested. Well, I'm kind of interested to see where where Germany's gonna go with their very lackluster top tier air
Their air tree is
lineup.
such a mess. Goodness gracious.
Like you get the F4F ice, and then it's like, all right, Typhoon,
Good luck.
because it's like that. It's either that or a MiG-29. It's like, okay, well now what?
And the tornado as the 3 is atrocious.
Well, they're
For
retiring the tornadoes, so I mean,
for people who don't know, it is generally believed that the Swiss are going to be added to the German tech tree, which would give Germany access to the Hornet, which would be the before the Typhoon as well, would be the uh, other top tier because most tech trees have at least two types of top tier jet, or at least two to pick from usually. Minus a few circumstances, like everybody gets an F-15, everybody gets an F-16, or the MiG-29, the SU-27, the J-10, the Mirage EI, the J-11B, J-10. There's two types of fighters usually in each tree. France, or not France, sorry, the Germany would Typhoon and the Super, or not the Super Hornet, but just the Hornet from Switzerland.
Yep.
I really hope.
Also,
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're about to say something.
I just wanted to throw out a quick thought. Also, let me clarify. It might not be the Typhoon because of the tornado as the 4. So that is an option. But if they're going to give out a broad statement out, I am leaning towards the Typhoon because extreme weather. Now, obviously, a tornado is extreme weather too, but I don't think they would make a jest of watch out for extreme weather in a post without it being something significant. But that's also an option, so I want to go ahead and make that known that the as the 4 tornado for Germany might be might also be an option. So I don't want to exclude that and not call that out. So that's basically it. Go ahead, Justin.
I was just gonna say, I hope they add the F5F to Germany as a tech tree vehicle because I just love the F5. So it'll just be an F5 with like AIM-9Ls basically.
Let's see who has a sense of humor for what jet they're going to add to Germany.
Oh boy.
They're gonna
If,
add the Alpha Jet Ice. There you go.
Somehow they're gonna figure out how to make the ice into a different variant. They're gonna add another F4.
I mean that one. I mean I mean, to be fair, that one gets AIM-9Ls or M's. I can't remember. I think it gets L's most likely. It gets L's and it gets Mavericks. So
The AIM-9 Li.
maybe. I can't. It's been a while since I read where I got the information from, but it
I mean,
gets.
I'm saying the one in game gets the Li.
What does?
The ice. F4F ice.
Yeah, it gets the LI. It's an AIM-9M with
I
a.
was just joking
It's an
around.
AIM-9M, but it's not smokeless. Like it's yeah. But yeah, the ice it could be a, I don't know, a pocket cast aircraft. I mean, it is for like 8790 Germany already. So
I
that
didn't know
would
there
just
was an ice version of the Alpha Jet. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
If you want
I
to
did
throw
not know
that
that
around,
either.
then yeah, that was news to me. If you want to throw that around, then I suggest the Yak 130.
That would be interesting.
That would be pretty interesting. Yeah.
That's a cool looking jet.
I'd put that. I mean, put it in the yak line
There, yeah,
after the 141.
there you go.
You already got all the yak nines, the threes, all the other stuff. I mean, hey,
The 141.
You either put it before or after something. Pick something. I don't
eh.
know.
I mean,
I'm not gonna make that decision because I don't work for Gaijin. They can figure it out.
I can't. I
That's not
can't
my
name
job.
all. I can't name all the weapon systems that thing has off the top of my head, but I just know it's a subsonic.
Yeah,
So it's a
it's a
subsonic trainer, attacker trainer. So
yeah. But all right. Let me read these closing words. So the entire War Thunder team would like to extend our thanks to everyone for you playing the game, leaving feedback, and reporting bugs to us. We aim to keep this article series going into 2025 to ensure you're kept up to date with information from the dev team themselves. Have fun? We'll see about that. Fun in War Thunder? No, that's non-existent. Enjoy
Patent pending. I'll
patent
let you know when
pending.
I find it.
soon, TM.
Soon to be determined. Enjoy the upcoming festive season and see you in 2025. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys watching the video. I really appreciate it. I just want to try something different. I wanted to keep it nice and loose. I didn't want to just read it off and give off my personal thoughts. I wanted to include some external voices in this discussion so we could get at least some varying opinions on it. Thank you, Justin and Hack, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and thank you so much. And I will talk to y'all later.